Hello and welcome to another episode of the F1 Hour with my friend and yours, the goatiest of all F1 goats to have ever goated, the one that they called Mr. Peter D. Windsor. How are you doing, good sir?
I'm very well, Cameron. Happy New Year to you and to everybody out there as well.
Happy New Year, sir. How did you enjoy the festive period?
Yeah, excellent. Here in Spain, a little bit different. They Christmas isn't quite as big as what we call Epiphany. I think they call it Three Kings. They tend to give all their gifts then in January, but was it late December? I can't remember. But apart from lovely. Have the family together and did lots of stuff. Beautiful weather, so we're out there doing the old hiking, lots of golf, and just generally road trips. Lovely.
Good man, good man. Should we talk about some F1?
Why not? Yeah, we haven't really thought about it very much, I don't think, for a while. So let's see what's going on in the world out there.
It feels like there is a lot going on, Peter. In the first instance, I want to ask you whether the season's over before it's even begun. A lot's been made of this compression rate stuff that it sounds like Mercedes and Red Bull Ford have done a tax avoidance, let's say, as far as their design philosophy is concerned. Do you think Mercedes and Red Bull Ford have the whip hand, or is this much to do about nothing?
Well, I think they do have the whip hand in reality, and in terms of all that we know and love about Formula One, they seem to have done a very good job, and all credit to them. The problem, and I think we need to go back to why we don't have MGUH on the cars this year, on the power units, and it's because Audi didn't want it. The problem is going to be if that is a significant advantage, and then we have either F1 and or the FIA coming in and ensuring parity by doing some other stuff to make sure that the power units are all equal. And I think, most of the people to whom I've spoken, we had a poll on my channel about this. Everybody thinks that if these people have found an advantage, they should be allowed to keep it. I say everybody, 63% in my case of the poll. And I agree with them 100%. I think it's completely wrong, all this parity stuff. But I fear that it will happen for two reasons. One, because of the MGH decision that was made in favor of Audi. And secondly, because we have this thing where the builders of the power units have to ensure that their engines are identical to those of their customer teams, which again, as I said on a live stream recently, last week, I think, I still find it incomprehensible why any team would have accepted that. Any team that builds its own power units would have accepted that, because that's your advantage. If you're building engines, the customers take what they get. And to have this whole parity thing, it's like, the weight penalties if you're winning races. That'll be the next thing. And there are a million ways, of course, that you can try to enforce parity. One of the most simple, and I hate to say it, will be fuel flow, which is a very easy thing to adjust. And beyond that, as I say, weight, give a weight penalty to the two manufacturers that have actually come up with something original. I mean, I don't think it'll get that far. And if it does, the whole thing will implode probably. But believe me, there are going to be plenty of subtle ways that they can get parity. I just hope, for the sake of the purity of Formula One, that if Mercedes and Red Bull Powertrain Ford have found an advantage, they're allowed to keep that advantage. If they've done a good job and it's not illegal, fair enough.
True, Peter. Can I push back on that respectfully, as we always tend to do,
as you always do,
in this Netflix Drive to Survive era?
Yeah.
If, as per Liam Parker, Chief Communications Officer of the Commercial Rights Order, if what he's saying is something that we can be invested in, being that F1 is no longer a sport, but that they see it as content, surely then, Peter, with a view to keep the 18 to 35-year-old demographic that they've done such a good job of attracting, the 40% of women as a percentage of the whole that are now watching F1, in order to keep those brand new eyes, don't they need to at the very least make sure that the sport delivers on track and that we get some racing, that it's a little bit close sometimes, even if that's a little bit contrived?
Well, I would say a number of things in response to that. One, the show isn't necessarily, in my opinion, dependent on close racing. As I've said a million times, I mean, how many tournaments did Tiger Woods win by more than 5 shots? And yet the TV ratings went up and up and up in golf when Tiger Woods was dominating. So it's up to the TV companies, the production companies, and the commentators to make whatever's happening in front of them dramatic and exciting for the fans. That's the first thing. That's a huge ask, I know, because very few of them seem to be up to that task, but that is one of the things. It is what it is. And if a team wins by a lap, from the pole, make it dramatic, make it exciting. And it almost goes back to Abu Dhabi 21. Oh no, we can't have the finale finishing behind a safety car. We've got to have one lap of racing. And look at the mess that created. And still, that's reverberating around the world, all the impact of Abu Dhabi 21. And so it goes on. I think, the reason I think Audi will be okay, partly is because they have Jonathan Wheatley, going back to Abu Dhabi 21. If anybody's a good lobbyist with the FIA, it'll be Jonathan Wheatley in there saying, well, look, do you really want Audi droning around at the back of the field just because we're a huge manufacturer coming in for the beauty of the sport and helping everybody out there to increase the footprint of Formula One? Do you really want us at the back? You can do this, you can do that. We'll be up there soon, but we got to make sure. And he'll do a very good job of that. I don't think anybody in the world will do a better job than Jonathan Wheatley, actually. And then he's a massive advantage for Audi in that respect. It makes most of the other sort of team principals, or whatever you want to call them, look pretty routine, to be honest. And that's what we have to think about. So there will be parity. And final answer to your question, Cameron, I think it will turn out to have parity. And I think they will do something to ensure that the power units are more or less equal across the board. And everybody will have to accept it. And there will be some good races and there will be some bad races. What I'm saying is, I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing for the sport long term. But not much we can do about it, because it's going to happen and we're going to have to accept it. Either stop watching Formula One. And I've just had an email this morning from somebody saying if that happens, they will not watch Formula One anymore. Wow. That's just one person. So I don't suppose Liberty care about that. And so it goes on. I will continue to watch it and I'll continue to get the best from it as I can. But I won't respect any of the manufacturers that have been helped by artificial means to have a leg up.
It is one of the central tenets of the FIA as the regulatory body of Formula One. It is not one of the central tenets to level the competitive landscape if indeed Mercedes do get a 2 or 3 second jump on the rest of the field. Because you can't have a two-tier championship, can you, Peter?
Can you not? 87? I don't think it was a bad year for Formula One, was it? Nigel Mansell versus Nelson Piquet in the Williams Hondas dominating.
No.
Was that a bad year for Formula One? I don't know. People go on about 92 Monaco Grand Prix as one of the great races. That was the year Nigel dominated everything. It doesn't really matter what's going on in the midfield and the back of the grid, so long as you've got great racing at the front. Let's assume the McLaren Mercedes dominate even more in 2026 than they did in 25, but they have the best car by a second a lap everywhere. But it's unbelievable racing and close infighting and wheel-to-wheel bashing and accidents and everything else between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Do you think everyone's going to turn off purely because they're a second a lap quicker and there's no parity in Formula One? This is the problem, you see. People are making decisions based on survey results which say we've got to have more overtaking. But what does that mean? Does that mean at the expense of other things? Does it mean in the midfield? Does it mean at the front? Does it mean more infighting between two drivers in equal cars in the same team? Does it mean more DRS? I mean, it can mean a million things. And anyway, did they have in the survey, do you like the art of defense? Would you like to see more really good defense? Was that in the survey, the same survey? I doubt it very much. And so it's all down to the questions they ask, which are usually pretty banal and loaded anyway. And I think we should start to get a grip on ourselves as Formula One fans and just watch whatever circuit is going to produce. And if it's a boring Saudi Arabia or Vegas track with lots of DRS, or as it's going to be active aero and push to overtake on those straights, we'll just have to accept it for what it is. And other circuits will have their own charm as well. But I don't think artificially playing with the regulations like this is a good thing. I just don't think it's a good thing. What can I say? I don't like any category of motorsport in which they have weight penalties if you're successful. I don't approve of that. I don't agree with it. Call me pompous, call me this, call me that. I don't like it and I don't want it.
Very good points, Mr. Windsor. Very well made. Let me ask you about the test, because a lot's been made of this in the community, that the Barcelona test is behind closed doors. Why is the question that so many are asking. If, again, you're trying to open up the doors of F1 and bring more people into it, then surely in 2026 that no content should be left on the cutting room floor. Yeah, maybe it's a brand new rule and reg set, and maybe some of the teams are wrestling with reliability, and maybe there will be some cars parked up on tracks sometimes. But surely that's the beauty of testing, is it not, Peter? All of the F1 fans have been a craving rather fiendishly to see some 2026 cars out on the track proper. So therefore, why not take advantage of it? Have they made a mistake by closing the doors, Peter, to Barcelona private testing?
Whether it's a mistake or not, I don't know. It all comes under the heading of what are you trying to achieve and what marks a success. And I suppose success is marked these days in money and growth and number of people watching. And in that sense, it probably is a mistake. I think this can only have happened because of the teams wanting this. And it's because they want to save themselves, I would guess, public embarrassment. If their car does one lap in 4 days, whatever it is, I would guess it's only that, because there can be no other logical reason for any sane thinker. We all want Formula One to succeed. Formula One prides itself on being the pinnacle of technology. Testing is the heart of technology more than anything else. Where is the problem in opening it up to the fans, having massive screens everywhere, lots of downtime for the drivers who aren't in the cars, either because they're doing an engine change or because they're not running that day, lots of time to do interviews, lots of times to mingle with the fans. It's a perfect opportunity to really sell Formula One before the season starts. And yet the teams, I guess, have said, oh, no, we can't do that. It's just pathetic. And I have no sympathy for anything they're going to come up with later in the year if they have complaints about something, because it's totally wrong. The fans should have access to the test, and they should all be there. It's not as if it's a Fiorano test or it's some sort of Silverstone shakedown. It's a proper test. It's a Formula One test, and it's a great thing. And they should, more than that, they should start having those hot laps at test as well. And Pirelli should be allowed to do those hot laps at test. There should be 50, 60,000 people at every day of the test. That's what testing should be all about. And they're missing a massive opportunity in not doing that. The only word I can think of is pathetic, because they're just trying to, I can only imagine they're trying to avoid embarrassment. What else are they thinking? I mean, it's not going to be the fans who are going to pass on the great technical secret of the Ferrari to the Red Bull engineers. It's the Red Bull engineers watching the Ferrari in the pit lane, which is going to happen anyway, whether it's a closed test or not. So what possible downside is there in opening it to the public and making it the biggest possible event you can have pre-season?
1,000%, Peter. And by closing the doors, already Audi have put a 2026 iteration on track. And by being very secretive about it, the Twitter spheres have started to generate AI images. When there is, I don't know, the truth gets all the way, or a lie gets all the way around the world before the truth in F1 has put its shoes on, right? And I think that's what they open up. I think that's what's going to happen in the private test, that people will just be making up all sorts of lies, and some of those will sustain as truth, sadly.
In other words, business as normal. You really think everybody tells the truth in Formula One whenever they've got a microphone in front of them? Come on.
Fair go. No. Do you
think racing drivers, when they're being interviewed after failing to get out of Q1 or having, I don't know, retired after 20 laps due to this or that, do you think they actually say what's really on their mind? Come on.
Unless, of course, Peter, you're Sir Lewis Hamilton, who's been doing a lot of that of late in his interviews, speaking his mind. Friend of the channel, your friend of mine, Matt Bishop, wrote an article where he said that he wishes Sir Lewis would have retired after Abu Dhabi 2021. And he went as far as to write out the statement that Lewis should have made announcing his retirement.
Good on Matt.
It's not bad. What do you make of that, Peter? Because you've been singing from a similar hymn sheet all the while now.
Well, I think Lewis has been around long enough to know that there is absolutely no upside at all in speaking his mind. And although you may categorize it as Lewis speaking his mind, I very much doubt that it really is the real Lewis that you're hearing. I think it's what Lewis is saying, probably what he thinks he should be saying, stroke what he wants to say if things were going in the direction he wants them to go, but he's probably not being his real self. That's all I can say. And it's not just Lewis. I'd say that applies to every racing driver on the planet. Well, certainly Formula One driver on the planet. And so, I mean, if you said to Lewis now, do you think you underestimated Charles Leclerc, for example? there's no way in the world, even if Lewis thinks he did underestimate Charles Leclerc, there's no way in the world he's ever going to admit that. He's always going to say, oh, no, I always knew he was quick. I mean, of course, you know how good Charles is. Of course he's going to say that. That's not Lewis speaking his mind. That's Lewis being, diplomatic. And fair enough. But to me, because racing drivers no longer have casual conversations with people they bump into and don't mind if it's quoted and don't have to ask if it's being recorded or not and don't have to get permission from media people to speak, because that never happens, all the stuff that comes out is, not really worth anything, because it's what they're supposed to be saying rather than what is reality. And I'm only speaking from experience. I'm just speaking from, the experience of talking to Ronnie Peterson or Jackie Ickx or Nigel Mansell or Ayrton Senna or any of these guys, Mario Andretti, when you can have a proper conversation with them about anything. And they didn't mind if you recorded that. They didn't mind if you didn't record it and then you quoted them. No problem at all. They always felt it was in the interest of the sport for people to take an interest in what they were doing and saying. It's a completely different world now, because each team is a media hub in its own right, and it thinks it therefore has control over its media output, which makes it good for guys like you, Cameron, who can express an opinion and be the voice of the people. Is that the right phrase? Are you the voice of the people?
I don't know about all of that, Peter. So mileage may vary. Peter, I wanted to ask you this. There's been a lot made. Sergio Perez gave an interview with the Cracks podcast. And he spoke quite openly about his tenure over at the Bulls that are red, and spoke quite disparagingly about Max Verstappen and the way that they build and design the car, develop the car even over the course of a season. His words were something like this, that the job at Red Bull is really, really difficult. He talked about a conversation with Christian Horner when he was saying farewell. Christian, you do realise that Tsunoda-san and Liam Lawson won't be fit for purpose, and that you'll have to use all of them, all of the drivers that you have at your disposal. To which Christian Horner said, yes, I know. The insinuation being that this is Max Verstappen's team. If the rules allowed for us to run one car with Max in it, then we would do that. What do you make of this, Peter? Is Checo Perez, is there a dose of truth to what Checo Perez is saying, or is he being a perfect victim per se?
No, I think he's being a perfect victim. I don't think there's a grain of truth in it. And I think that if you'd had Charles Leclerc in the other Red Bull in the last 5 or 6 years, he would have been pretty successful. He might even have won a championship against Max. That's not to say that he's as good as Max right now, but if you had a class driver in the other car, of course, he'd be very near Max. And the reality is they've never had a class driver alongside Max, apart from the brief period when Daniel Ricciardo was there. And that's it. But Red Bull quite capable of producing two very competitive cars, as we saw in the Sebastian Vettel, Mark Webber days. So it's all nonsense, and it's all Perez basically trying to justify not being as quick as Max, and basically saying, if they built the car around me, I would have won 4 world championships and Max would have been nowhere. Is that what he's trying to say? I don't know. I think he's wrong there as well, because even if I'm not quite sure what they mean by building the car around Max. What does that mean exactly? Oh, well, yeah, it's got a really good turn in, bit of a flick oversteery, which they have to compromise with. But Max knows how to drive a racing car, so we're going to give him a front end above all. And what's wrong with that? Perez has shown over the years how good he is in terms of putting the power down, and how he looks after the rear tires, and he's very, very good on his linear power application. So, and he showed that, well above his talent level, probably. He won Grand Prix. So, he should be saying, I just can't believe how lucky I was to be driving for Red Bull when I did. I was so happy to be there. What a great team. I was there for the golden days with Jonathan Wheatley and Christian and Adrian. Why is he not saying that? Thank you very much, Red Bull, for those Grand Prix wins. It's just the same old story. When he managed to win a few races early on, when was he? Second last year, I think. And started everybody all the Mexican press got excited about how he could win the world championship and beat Max. And he believed it all. Of course, the press are going to say that, because they do. That's what they do. But for Perez to believe it all, and he's believing it all now, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, he's hyping himself back up.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The way to hype himself up is to go and do 25 days with Rob Wilson in the rain at Snetterton.
As you round third, Mr. Windsor, I've got to ask you this question. Aston Martin Honda There's been a lot being made about them. Koji Watanabe, the head of the power unit program, came out and said recently that everything's not perfect over here, but we're doing our best. For now, there's been no fatalities, but we're progressing and doing our best. On the other side of that fence, a lot of people are saying that Aramco, that he'll be providing the advanced sustainable fuels to Aston Martin, that they've got length and breadth expertise because they've been providing the same fuel to F2 and F3 for 2 years now, and that potentially, if indeed there is upside from compression ratios at Mercedes, that will be equalised by Honda, their power unit, their efficiency, and Aramco and their expertise. Do you think Aston Martin will be competing, therefore, in 2026 for race victories and podiums, Peter?
I do think they'll be competing. I definitely do. And it's characteristic of Honda, if you look at them in the past, to be pretty conservative about their prospects. They never go out and beat the chest and say, yeah, we got a great engine here, we're going to blow everybody into the weeds. That never happens with Honda. It's the opposite. And what you're seeing is exactly the way Honda go motor racing. And everybody else should be fearing for their lives, I think, in terms of how good that car is going to be. I don't think the Aramco thing is a factor. I think they'll do a very good job, Aramco, but I don't think they'll do a better job than the Exxon Mobils of this world. Why would they? How could they? I mean, it's a limited amount of stuff out there that you can formulate. Obviously, it's complicated. Obviously, it's a whole new territory for all the oil companies. But at the same time, it is a relatively finite ceiling. And so, yeah, I mean, roll on. I don't believe that they've got an advantage in that area. I believe it'll all be the Honda facilities and their ability to do what they have to do. It'll be Adrian Newey on top of the entire program, and it'll be Andy Cowell making it all happen. And if you combine those three elements, as I say, I'd be scared if I was anybody in any other power unit company. Not scared, I'd be concerned.
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Windsor, you're an absolute legend. More than generous with your time, as per usual. A slightly more curtailed catch-up, more concise than usual, and I apologise for that. Mr. Windsor, you're an absolute legend. If you're not already subscribed to Peter D. Windsor's YouTube channel, then what are you doing with your life? Really? Get over and do that forthwith now, or something like that. And shortly thereafter, if you ingest all of your F1 content on a podcasting platform, then it's the Short Corners podcast. That's the pick to click. For now, he's been Peter D. Windsor. I've been Cameron CC. Between now and next time, as always, remember to look, but never stare.